welcome to the show. Anthony Wade here, and it is so good to be with you again. Look, it's been a busy week, and it's going to be a busy 2023. You know, I have so many speaking engagements coming up, a lot of traveling, training for an Ironman. And so I want you to know that I miss you just as much as you probably miss me. It's been about a week since I've done a podcast, but it's so good to be back. And I want to share with you some of the takeaways that I've had just over the last couple of weeks as I've been speaking on stages and spending time with my family, really dialing in my training as I'm 10 weeks out from this Ironman, my first ever. And if you ever done an Ironman before and you're listening to the show, drop your best tips below because I can use all the help that I can get. But I have one coming up April 3rd, and I'm excited, but it's taken a lot out of me for training and focus and discipline. And that's kind of what I want to talk to you today about. Somebody asked me, I just spoke to about 1,200 people, and somebody asked me, how do I build confidence and discipline? Like, what would you tell somebody who needs to build confidence and discipline? And look, if you're just now watching this or listening to this, what you see is a product of 19 years of continual growth, of really trying to figure out what I want out of life and what kind of life do I want to create. It hasn't always been this way. And in fact, confidence was something that I struggled with for most of my life. I grew up without a father. He left when I was 2. I had a lot of adversity as a child, and it really took for me not to find myself, because I don't like when people say you have to find yourself. And what I found is that, through this journey of finding myself or discovering myself, I found that you don't find yourself, you create the person who is capable, who is willing to go after everything that they want, regardless of their circumstances. Somebody always says, resilience is, bouncing back. And I'll tell you this, resilience is falling down and bouncing back further than you were when you first fell. It's coming back and then some, and if you look at, if I look at my life and I look at the timeline and the sequence of it, there's no proof that I should be doing what I'm doing. I shouldn't be a naval officer. I damn sure shouldn't be a healthcare professional, graduating high school with a 1.8 GPA. And now a speaker, a coach, a trainer, and stepping on stages with, big names. Like, in fact, this is kind of housekeeping, kind of off the topic, but if you're in the San Diego area, March 3rd through the 5th, then I want you to join me as I'm going to be speaking at the Military Wealth Summit hosted by my friend Douglas James. But Robert Kiyosaki is going to be there. Dr. Jeff Spence is going to be there. There's going to be Lieutenant Jason Redman, retired Navy SEAL. He's going to be speaking there. And there's going to be a group of just growth-minded individuals, 300 people, over 300 people. Some of the best names in the business will be there. And if you're in the area and you want to join, I'll put the link below to register, but I would love to see you there. I would love to shake your hand, give you a hug, tell you thank you for supporting and watching the show and listening to the podcast. But needless to say, if you look at the timelines on my life, like, I shouldn't be doing these things. There's no way that a kid like me, a person like me, should be where I'm at today. And I attribute the majority of my success, 1, to discipline, and 2, to building confidence. You see, I the first time I ever stepped on stage, I was in a classroom and I had to speak to 12 people. I had 2 minutes to talk about anything I wanted, and the topic was Mike Tyson. I know. I picked Mike Tyson because I love this quote, and I resonated with it so much when I did this. But he said, everybody has a plan until life punches you in the face. And, if I look at my life, I've been punched in the face quite a bit. In fact, after giving that talk and running out of the classroom, so embarrassed, so nervous, I ran out of the classroom. The teacher felt so bad for me that she brought me my bag and said, I'm not going to fail you. I'm going to give you a withdrawal, but you have to take the class again. Well, I would shortly graduate, high school. And on my graduation day, I got punched in the face, literally. My mom, she married her husband who, struggled with alcohol. And, at that day he was under the influence, and he punched me in the face. And that's when I made the conscious decision to leave home and really try to, run away from all the problems. And, I would bounce from couch to couch and literally be homeless for the next year and a half. And for most of my adult life, I was 18 at the time, and most of my adult life, I always said, why did that happen to me? Why did that happen to me? And I would blame all of my failures, all of my lack of confidence, all of the opportunities that I missed. I would blame all of that on being abused mentally, physically, emotionally, being punched in the face. And it wasn't until I realized this that never happened to me. It happened for me. And when I took that stance on life, it gave me a sense of confidence that said, okay, well, if it happened for me, then what am I going to do with it? Like if I have a gift for you, are you going to accept it? Are you going to appreciate it? Are you going to, keep it close to your heart? And that's what I did. I said, man, if this happened for me, then I'm going to hold on to it. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to use it for good. And that's what I did. And I realized that everything up until that point happened for me, never happened to me. And now that I step on stages and speak, it's not because of my successes. It was because of the struggle. And see, when we come to confidence, most people lack confidence because they're still stuck in a past failure, a past hurt, a past mistake, a past wrongdoing. And that hurt, that mistake, that failure, we look at it differently, and that builds this lack of confidence because we see ourselves for how we were, not who we are called to be. You see, most of the time I get opportunities to do things, and I would see myself as that little boy who was abused and that little kid who got punched in the face, and I would automatically discredit myself and discount myself and count myself out. And what I realized is that there's no shame in adversity. In fact, adversity is your advantage. I get to speak on stages, not because of the successes, but because of the adversity, because I was able to turn that pain into purpose. And the same thing goes for you. So if you lack confidence, the chances are you are not being consistent with the things you know you should be doing. And that lack of consistency comes from lack of clarity in who you are. You see, when you look at yourself as who you once were, you forget to realize how powerful you really are. And when we look at ourselves as a past self, that past person, all we see is the bad because that's what we remember. And you can't let your past predict your future. I don't care if it was good or bad. The high school quarterback that could have won the championship, that's just as bad because now you're stuck in the past of what you was or what you were instead of what you are and what you are striving to be. You see, when I broke free of that perception of this is happening to me and that I'm just this broke kid and that, life dealt me a bad hand, it doesn't matter the hand that you were dealt. What matters is how you play it. And when I changed my perspective and I shifted the way that I looked at it, right? When we change the way we view things, we change the way that we do things. And I changed my view on myself. To change my view on who I was. I saw my self-worth and my self-value not as that young kid, but as this man who now is on a mission to speak to the masses. And that shift allowed me to stay consistent in my craft. This podcast is what you see as a craft. It's every day putting in the reps so that I get the results, so that when I step on stage, there's no lack of confidence anymore. You will never see me run from a stage. I'll always run to a stage. You give me a mic and the lights, I'm going to share my message. All I need is a mic and an audience, and I'm going to share my message. Hell, I don't even need an audience. I'm shooting this podcast in my office, and there's nobody in here. But you see, the difference of me going from running off stage to running on stage is understanding that fear and excitement share the same emotion. You see, when you lack confidence, why? Because you're afraid of something. I was afraid of sharing my message because I was ashamed. I was afraid of sharing my message because I remembered what it felt like to have my hands sweaty, my knees weak, and I felt like, I wanted to just throw up all over myself. And I felt like, people were judging me and criticizing me. And really what it was I was judging and criticizing myself. Who do you think you are? What do you think you're doing on stage? Nobody's going to listen to you. Remember where you came from. All those little voices that we tell ourselves and remind ourselves of why we shouldn't. I want you to remind yourself on why you should, why you could, and why you must. You see, now, when I get this opportunity to step on stage, I realize that there's somebody in the audience who needs to hear my voice. And if they don't, that could be the difference, literally, between life and death. I've had people reach out to me and say, Anthony, I listened to your podcast and, I tried to take my life 3 times this year. But I remembered something that you said that gave me hope. And here I am. I'm still in the game. And I'm thinking, wow, there's days where I come in here and I'm like, well, why should I record another podcast? Nobody's listening to me. Like, why would they want to listen to me? What do I have to say? And that fear, that doubt, that criticism, that judgment, will literally rob you from your calling. And not only that, but it robs other people from hearing your voice that could literally save their life. And so you have to understand that your confidence comes through conviction of your calling on your life. Nobody will ever be convinced in who you are and who you are as a leader until you are convicted in your ability to lead, in your calling as a leader. But here's the thing: consistency breeds confidence. So, what are the things that you know you should be doing that you lack consistency in? When you tell yourself, hey, I'm going to start this new diet, are you keeping the promises that you made to yourself? I told myself I was going to do an Ironman way before I realized how much it was going to cost, way before I realized how much time investment and how much pain and suffering I have to go through. I got to get up at 3 a.m. to go swimming and jump in ice cold water and swim, over a mile. And I didn't know all that before I started, but you know what? Those days that I want to quit, I remind myself of the promise that I made. And if I can't keep the promises to myself, then I can't keep the promises I make to my kids and my family. I can't make the promises to you guys, to my coaching clients. I can't make the promises that I make to my audience that I speak to. And when you don't keep the promises that you make to yourself, then you lie to yourself. And you probably heard me say this before, but if you're lying to yourself, do you trust a liar? Do you believe in a liar? Probably not. So therefore, most people don't trust themselves or believe in themselves because they continue to lie to themselves. They tell themselves they're going to do something and they don't follow through. I've been there, and that killed my confidence more than anything in the world. And here's the thing: not only your confidence, but your character, because when you don't have the confidence to take action every single day and the consistency, you take cracks in your foundation, which is your character. And although the cracks might not be able to be seen yet, wait till that storm comes, AKA life, and it blows a storm through your life and your foundation is cracked. Guess what's going to happen? You are going to crumble under the slightest bit of adversity. You're going to crumble in the slightest bit of depression or anxiety. I see it all the time. And people ask, well, Anthony, how do you stay in the game? Well, let me tell you, adversity is my friend. It's not a foe. I'm very familiar with adversity. I love it because I know through the adversity is where the growth happens. That's where the change. That's why I'm here today. Because I've had adversity. I've tasted it. I've chewed it up and I've spit it out. I didn't allow it to chew me up and spit me out. You see, life is not going to be easy. I'm not here to tell you that, hey, everything's rainbows and butterflies. I'm an optimistic, but I'm not retarded. I love being realistic. I believe in so many people. I believe in you, but do you believe in you? You see, most people today with this positive, toxic positivity, whatever you call it, will tell you just to smile, write down some affirmations, whatever the case may be. And I'll tell you what, the answers to your life's biggest problems are not going to be found in a book. They're not going to be found in a podcast. They're not going to be found in an external source. It's going to be found within you. Confidence comes from the inside out. You cannot get confidence from the outside in. You can read a motivation book. You can listen to a podcast and feel good. But guess what? Feeling good and doing good are two different things. One is means that you take action regardless of how you feel. You see, confidence means that you're taking action. You're putting in the reps, even though you feel like quitting, even though it's cold, even though you're tired, even though it's raining, even though you're not sure what the outcome is going to be, you continue to take action. And when you do get the results and there's little signs of proof, that drives your belief, and your belief will drive your behavior. But most people don't stay in the game long enough to build confidence. So how do you build confidence? By giving yourself a command and following through with it, regardless of how you feel. And you have to do it every single day. It doesn't happen in a day, it happens daily. And then over time, you build that confidence. It took me, 2015 till now is what, 8 years, right? 8 years of consistent reps to get confident in speaking. And I'm sitting here on a podcast with no notes. This is coming from here, not anywhere else. I don't have any prompts or anything like that. Like, this is coming straight from the heart. And because it's what I live. I practice what I preach. Well, there's a lot of people out there who just like to talk a big game, but they don't walk a very big game. And I'll tell you, when you give yourself a command, you follow through with it, that's where the magic happens. You can read the books. I love books. I have tons of them, but not once did I find a solution to my problems in a book. Now, I got coaches and I got mentors that I invested in, and they helped me think it through, but ultimately it came from me. I had to change the way I looked at things, and only then did the things I look at begin to change, including myself. You see, when I looked in the mirror, I wasn't proud of who I saw. I wasn't, grateful for the things that I had because I was still stuck with what I didn't have. I was focused on what I lost and what I don't have instead of focusing on what I do have, what's right in front of me, the opportunity. And I saw myself not as a man of confidence and conviction, but a man who was broken, who always screwed things up, who never got it right. And here's the thing, that's not conducive to a future that I want. And so, what do you want? So, confidence comes from within. It comes from taking the action regardless of how you feel. When you know it's going to be hard, when you know you don't want to do it, that's exactly what you need to be doing. Use that as a gauge, as a guide to say, you know what, this is exactly what I need to do. I don't want to wake up tomorrow at 3 a.m. and jump in the freezing cold water and swim. That's exactly what I need to do because that's where the growth happens. You beat that little voice in your head to where it doesn't have a say so in how you live your life. Many of people, maybe including you, the biggest problem is that little voice is ruling you. It's pointing you in the wrong directions and you're walking and you're following orders from this little thing in here. And you're not listening to that big thing inside of you that says, there is more for me. There's more than my current circumstance. There's more than my situation. There's more than this broken relationship. There's more than this broken bank account. There's more for me. And I'm going to go get it. You see, most people can't think that way because they're so stuck on what the news is saying, what's going on in the world, what's going on social media. Here's the thing, you can't control it. You can't control it, so why let it control you? And so confidence comes from within. Now, when it comes to discipline, where does discipline come from? Discipline comes from the word disciple, which is follower of truth. Follower of truth. And so when we look at this disciple, follower of truth, this means that you are setting goals. You are setting a vision for yourself based on core values of what you believe. This is your truth. It's not my truth. It's not their truth. It's your truth. And you have to understand that what works for one person will not work for everybody because that's their truth. This is yours. So your core values, what do I value? Okay. And then what actions can I take every single day to live by these core values? And in the Elite 360 Academy, my coaching group, we use 4 areas: mindset, meaning, movement, and mission. Mindset, meaning, movement, and mission. And these are 4 areas that we look at and we set goals based on core values that allow us to make sure that we are in alignment with what we are achieving, but also who we are becoming. You see, what is it to make a lot of money and then lose your relationships with your family? I see it all the time. People invest more time and effort in their career than they do in their life, their family. And it's crazy because I've seen high level people all alone with a lot of money. And let me tell you, they are broke. Mentally, physically, emotionally. They got a nice bank account, nice house, but nobody to share it with. How crazy is that? And so when you look at discipline, follower of truth, what truth are you following? Are you following the truth, or are you just listening to the next guru tell you, what the next 997 program is going to be? Are you listening to somebody who hasn't done nothing with their life, but they're going to give you a roadmap for success, who's never achieved anything? And so you got to be really clear on this and say, you know what? I'm going to be my own coach. I'm going to give myself a command. I'm going to follow through with it, but I'm going to look at my core values and really evaluate, what do I value right now? Because if you say you value your family, but you're in the office till 8 o'clock at night, missing dinner every week, not going on date nights with your spouse, not investing in your kids, not investing in your own health, then you're pretty much lying to yourself, right? So what do you value? Do you value health? And if I look at you, are you 50 pounds overweight, 100 pounds overweight? Chances are you don't value health. Do you value your relationships? Are you pouring into the people that you lead and those you love? Or are you watching Netflix and chill and trying to drown out the reality with, alcohol and drugs or some kind of addiction? I've been there too. And I'm telling you, the difference between where I am today and where I was making this shift that I'm no longer going to let external circumstances control how I show up. I'm going to shift the external circumstances and the situations by who I become, so that when I walk into a room, when I walk into a meeting, when I walk into a situation, when I'm faced with a circumstance, I know that within me lies the ability to figure it out, to come to a solution, because most of the times I am the problem and I am always the solution. And the same thing goes for you. So where in your life are you allowing external circumstances to control you? Where are you allowing situations, things out of your control, to control the 6 inches between your ears? Most people don't have original thoughts. They're thinking about, what they did yesterday. This level of awareness that comes within you to say, let me get real and evaluate my life. and find where my flaws are and go to work every single day to kill my weakness. You do that and you will become a force to be reckoned with. People ask, like, how do you get these opportunities all the time? Well, you know what? I'm not marketing myself on social media, like buying ads and begging people. I don't come from a place of desperation. I come from a place of desire, a desire to serve, a desire to lead, a desire to influence and impact other people. And people can sense that, they can feel that. It's not desperation, it's a desire. Because to be honest with you, I don't have to do any of this. I have a full-time career, a full-time family. I do pretty well for myself, but this is a desire to help other people. And when you have your life set up in a way that you do things out of desire and not desperation, opportunities will come to you more than you could ever imagine. But I see it all the time. People come and they DM me about all these things about, hey, I can help you make this. Hey, what if I, like, dude, I get it. You're broke. I get it. You're struggling. Go fix yourself. Go get some results and then come back and talk to me. But when I look at your life, you are not where I want to be. So for those of you who are looking to find a coach or a mentor or somebody like that, find somebody who's doing what you're doing, who's speaking truth and who's actually living and practicing what they preach. There's a lot of people out there who are not disciplined, who are not confident, but they'll be the first ones to try to sell you some BS. And so I'll get off my soapbox, but I want you to understand confidence and discipline are the starting points to your achievement, to your success, to your significance, to the life that you want to have. Confidence and discipline require consistent action. And this is the difference between those who live by design and those who live by default. Stop living by the default programming that society has placed on you, that your family has placed on you, that your friends or the organization you work at, whatever it is that they put on you. That's not who you are. It's what you do, but that's not who you are. That's default settings. A life by design says, I wake up every morning and I'm chasing my goals. I am excited about what I'm building, but most importantly, I'm excited about who I'm becoming. Every day, get a win by setting some targets and then knocking them down every single day, over and over again. Sometimes it's not sexy. Sometimes it's boring, but you know what? That consistent action and that movement gets you closer towards your goal. But if you fail to do so, you will find yourself drifting on the ocean of life. And as soon as that storm comes, it carries you and sweeps you out to sea, and you'll never be seen. You'll never be heard. You'll never lead. You'll live a life of mediocrity. How crazy is that? That's the biggest scare for me, is living a life that lacks meaning and purpose and fulfillment. To lose the significance of the influence that I have in the lives of my kids and my wife. That would be complete failure. And I think the same goes for you. If you dig deep, your why is bigger than you. It's bigger than your circumstances, bigger than your situation. And so if that's you, I want you to think about this. I created a PDF. I'll put it down in the show notes, but it's the 5 pillars of leadership. It gives you kind of what we talked about today, but it talks about confidence, clarity, consistency, and conviction. And it shows you kind of the steps to go and do it. So if you want that, download the PDF below. It's totally free. It's my gift to you. And then also March 3rd through 5th, I'll be speaking at the Military Wealth Summit in San Diego, California. So if you're out there, you want to go out there and hang out with some high-level people, like Navy SEALs, Robert Kiyosaki, some high-level people who are crushing it in life, leadership, and business, then I'll see you there. I'll put the link below to register. I would love to see you. I'd love to have you. I would love to shake your hand, give you a hug. But I say all that to say this. You have to start leveling up your life. And it begins with you. It begins with the consistency, the confidence, and the discipline to go after what it is that you want. Stop living by desperation and start living a life by desire. I'll see you next.